Were you stalking me too? Were you stalking me, pulling in your like that ragey driver is definitely. I'm just teasing you. I'm just teasing. Hi.
No mess.
So she's on her way.
Okay. Yeah, everyone sees that. Everyone knows that.
You're all. All right, it's 6:01. We'll go ahead and call to order the February 19th meeting of the Weld RA5J Board of Education. If you take a moment to silence your cell phones, rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Kramer, would you please take roll?
Monica Johnson.
Here.
Amanda Proctor.
Here.
Nate Sassano.
Here.
Amy Musgrave is on her way. And Michael Wells.
Here. And?
Oh, yeah. Hayden Chambers. And Annabelle Roscoe.
Any changes to the agenda? I entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
So moved.
Oh.
I have a,
So eager.
Yeah.
So eager for the celebration.
we have a motion by Vice President Sassano, a second by Director Johnson to approve the agenda as presented. All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I gotta get, so we do have an agenda. Would you let the record show that Ms. Musgrave is with us? Sorry. I just switched on the Wi-Fi, so I had to re-authenticate. Do we have any citizens on agenda items?
We do not.
Okay. Let's move into our staff and student celebrations and recognitions. Superintendent Nielsen.
Thanks, President Wales, board members. Had an exciting couple of weeks. This time of year is always exciting, I think, as a district because it's the culmination of a lot of winter activities. I think we went together 2 weeks ago. I had just had a chance to watch our FBLA team participate in districts. And we had 56 individuals from Roosevelt High School participate over at UNC in the FA competition. That day, I think I said to some of you that night that it was so amazing to watch. It was domination from Roosevelt. It really was amazing to hear Roosevelt's name called. We had 38 individuals placed in the top 4, and we had 20 first-place winners that day, which is astonishing, far more than anyone else had. And they'll all go down to the state competition, which I think is the 3rd of April, maybe Monday, Tuesday, early in April. So again, one of those opportunities for our students to participate in authentic experiences, and our kids are thriving. So it's just cool that later that week had a chance to celebrate Anthony Durst, who I think our board members know well and is a community member here. He was celebrated by the, let's see if I can remember what CACTA is. CACTA is the Colorado Association for Career and Technical Administrators. They had a conference in northern Colorado a week and a half ago and recognized Anthony Durst as a CTE contributor for all the CTE work he's done in northern Colorado. Certainly, we benefit from Anthony in our community. He does a lot of work. He's part of our advisory boards, has an influence here and around the region. So it was nice to celebrate him, and He's not a parent yet of ours, will be, I think, maybe next year. So just a nice celebration of somebody that's one of our community members. And then the big celebration tonight is, as you think about state tournaments, our swimmers. And I want to sell the program itself, right? Because I think our women's swim team has only been with us for 4 years, I think. Coach Leopold sent me an update. Obviously, that was prior to me, but we started that program 4 years ago with 16 young ladies. And since then, we have grown the program to, it's more than doubled. We have 4 athletes this year, and 16 of them went to the state tournament. So we had as many students participate in the state tournament this year as we had on the team 4 years ago. And so for us, it's pretty awesome to see how the team is growing, the pride that we have, and to show up. I will say, as I got to watch, my first state swim meet is certainly loud when you're in there cheering for it, but there's a lot going on. How much, I'd be curious to how much when you're swimming, you actually can hear what's going on, but it was cool to be down there and celebrate and see our team, our Roosevelt sign on the wall. So thank you for that. Coach Lee, we would love to have you come up, if you would, and celebrate your athletes. And then ultimately, I'd love for you to introduce each athlete, have them come up and talk. For our swimmer, you come up and you talk a little bit about what your events were and what grade you're in and what your plans are as you go through high school and think about the impact swimming have as you think about your future going forward. So if you would just share a couple of Coach Leopold, if you talk a little more eloquently about your team, super proud of the work you've done to build the program.
Absolutely. Do you want me here? Do you want me okay. Yeah, super exciting. Just to see the growth of our program, thinking back to where we were 4 years ago to now. So much of that was just with the girls, with the team. And it was really a fun and emotional season to see these seniors who literally created this program with me are now young and who are going to graduate and go do some awesome things in this world. So it's been such an honor just to watch them and grow with them and grow this program. I've got a lot of my younger ladies in the room today and just know that they're what we have moving forward. It feels so good to know that this program passed off into good hands and that we have a really competitive future ahead of the program too. So a couple highlights from our state meet. We had our biggest team ever with 16 girls. Dive team had 5 divers qualify for state, which is the most out of any 3A team. So that was a huge accomplishment for this season. We had 2 ladies who made it into the top 20, which has never happened with Roosevelt diving before. On the swimming side, we actually qualified 2 medley relays this year, which has never happened before. We also were able to take both our medley relay and our freestyle relay into the finals for the first time ever. They placed 13th overall in both. We had some really big swims out of our freshmen. One of our friends, Cora, placed 15th overall in the 100 freestyle. One of our seniors, Addie, recorded best time over individual events. And one of our senior captains, Ayla, she has been our only 4-year state qualifier and 4-year state finalist. This year she made top 10, which is the first time in program history. She placed 7th and 8th in her individual events, and just today was announced that she's an all-state honorable mention. So super exciting things from all of our ladies. Ladies, come on up. Come introduce yourselves, share a little bit. Come on in. Yeah. Coach Angie, come on up. Come share the love. All right. North, start us off. Tell us your name, your grade, what events you swam. And what was our last thing you wanted?
How swimming is going to influence you going forward.
Love it. Okay.
My name is Nora. I'm a freshman, and I can't tell the rest. What is I? Well, I swam mainly breaststroke and basically anything freestyle. So yeah.
I'm Clara, I'm a sophomore, and at state I swam the 2 medley relay, the 2 free relay, the 500 free, and the 50 free. And I really love swimming, and it really has a big impact on my life. And in the future, it's going to help me learn how to have new opportunities and how to go to take those opportunities. And I really hope to swim in college and do that in my future.
I'm Rose. I'm a sophomore, and I swam the 400 free relay. What I hope to do with swim, I hope to qualify mainly in more events for high school. I know there's some individuals that I'm pretty close to, so I'm hoping mainly to qualify in those and be a good team player.
I'm Brooklyn. I'm a freshman. I was an alternate, and swimming is going to influence in the future because I hope to qualify for state again, and I also hope that it can teach me to be on a team.
My name is Mia, a diver. I feel like diving will just, I'm a junior, sorry, and I feel like diving will, I don't know, will help me mentally and physically throughout like my future, and maybe there's some more opportunities out there for me.
Hi, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Andy Inglovich. This was my first year as an assistant coach. Thank you all for proving me on that one. It was definitely needed. With the 11 girls on our dive team, it got practices went a lot smoother. Being able to have a tube working, and I took a lot of our younger divers, worked with techniques where Christine was able to take a lot of the higher up divers and work a little with them one-on-one. So it was appreciated and paid off for us to be able to take at least half our team to state. So thank you for that.
Thank you for sharing some of that with us. On behalf of the board, we have a token we'd like to present to each of you. A thank you from the district, because as you leave the district and go do the work you did at state, you represent us. You represent Roosevelt. You represent all of us. And so, again, I'd like to say thank you for to represent the board, but they also would love to have a chance to shake all your hands on the way back to your seats as well.
Thank you so
Are
much.
they coming around?
Thank you. We'll come over. We'll come around. Think about wine.
You're boxing
I know, I'm boxed in. Are we boxed in? Coming out the front. Okay, we're gonna do this thing. I feel like it's kind of a weird moment. Congratulations. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I know.
Set two school records. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Congratulations. Thank you. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That was good. I was
Good job.
thankful, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh yeah, I love diving.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. Congratulations. Everyone can let go. Congratulations. No, I'm sorry, that is my
That concludes my celebrations for this week.
Any other celebrations?
I would also like to celebrate another team, and I don't know if we're ever going to get them. We probably will. I wanted to celebrate the wrestling team who just took the runner up the state the first time, or they placed in the top 2 in the state for the first time in like 10 to 15 years. Which for those who aren't involved in the sport, like wrestling and track and swim, like it's a team sport, but it's not.
it's based on like individual effort in various events, and winning as a team is just like the perk of it. But in my opinion, as someone who has played basketball, which is a more close-knit sport, versus when I do track, like it is really cool to see everyone's individual effort accumulate into something like a runner-up or a state championship. I really would commend them. And also the girls wrestling team had their inaugural season and they took 2 wrestlers to state, which is really awesome, and I can't wait to watch that program grow. And I also wanted to shout out another student who spoke up at the Unified basketball game on last Wednesday, so a week ago. Bella Igualde, I think that's how you say her name. I'm so sorry if I butchered that. For those who don't know, her father was a first responder, and a year ago, I think this week, he passed away. In his honor, her family has set up a fundraiser to donate to first responders mental health care. That fundraiser ends tomorrow on the 20th, so I just wanted to highlight this because I said I would. Go, if you can, please go donate to it. There's a Facebook page for it. It's a really good cause, and I'm really proud of her for turning her grief into something that can help other people.
And can I add one more too? On our CTE programs at the high school, we had Mr. Walsh, Mr. Mays, and Mr. Dumper bring, I believe they brought 11 kids down to TSA State that went and competed for the first time. Only about, I want to say 8 of them stayed down there, but so that was cool to kind of see that group kind of enter in their CTO, which hasn't been particularly active. So I heard some great feedback.
Okay. Well, let's move on to our board reports. See you guys. Oh, we start down with you, Annabelle, and we'll go this way.
Yeah, so I'll kick us off. It's been a pretty busy month, learning lots on, I'd agree, for me and Hayden, learning kind of the processes and how things work. We met with our board over at the high school with Superintendent Nielsen and Kramer, what was that, last week? I'd say it was last week. So that was incredibly exciting to kind of talk about some of the issues that are facing us, like how do we get kids involved in these sports that they're not usually going to, theater performances, and really work to foster that spirit, not only at the high school, but as kids work their way up from the elementary and middle schools. We've also had a little bit of discussion about kind of further get their input when we start to go along, and I'm really excited for what's to come in the next couple of months.
Yeah, I agree with everything Annabelle said. Like, it's really, it's a privilege to be in this position because now it has opened up my perspective to everything that's going on in our district. And not that I wasn't understanding or perceptive like before, but now really like looking at ways I can help and things I can do to advocate. And I never really had that big of a perspective before. And one of the things that has also like changed perspective is now like people are looking to me for help, and I won't go through all the various things, but like I've helped out with a lot of projects that I wasn't like involved in before, but I felt it would be good to have someone like me there. I've been asked by a couple of people for help with a couple of things, so I'm really excited to continue what I've been doing so far in like the past month I've been in this position. I'm really excited to work with Annabelle as well, and I can already see like some differences we've been making, so it's really exciting.
No. Oh, okay.
Oh, Amanda. Well, you went to the basketball game too, because I obviously sat in front of you without realizing it was you for a minute. So Nate's been to basketball games. I went to a couple of basketball games. Been working with the DAC on the big DAC project of Portrait of a Graduate. I feel like it's coming along. It's getting there. The visuals aren't quite matching the message just yet, but I think that we'll get there. Actually, an interesting challenge, as we all know, sitting here, but when you have to visually put on one sheet of paper, 2 communities, 1 school district, and what's important with both of those communities, it's really hard to showcase that. And so I hope that by the time we're done, it on both communities, Johnstown and Milliken. I know there's some communities of like Berthoud, Mead, and Greeley, but I don't know. I think like that's the most challenging part. It hasn't been the feedback and sifting through that and what a graduate should know when they leave our school district. It's really how to visually portray that. That's been really hard, especially as these communities are literally in the middle of changing, of being so rural-based to more heavy residential-based and getting more commercial. Like that's just a challenge, as well as when trying to visually depict a community that's actively in the growth. But yeah, so we'll see. I'll leave it up to Scott to talk about designer and how to make it. That's what I've got. Thank you.
Amanda also was at teacher conference at the middle school, and so just wanted to thank all the teachers across the district. Parent teacher conference is a lot of work for teachers and staff, and that's a long day for them, and I just really appreciate their thoroughness. It's really fun at the middle school level. Parent teacher conference is kind of like spading, and you go in, you have the table set up, and you get a really thorough report though, and it's just so good to see how much they care about the students. So I was really great for that, and we also got to be there representing the library too, to show the students what is available for them at the library. So it was fun to be in both capacities. And then the last thing I just wanted to say was I'm probably the wimpiest person in winter weather. And I just want to give a real shout out to all of the staff that keeps our school running, the transportation staff, the maintenance staff, pulling up to the middle school today for drop off. There are teachers guiding traffic outside in -2 degrees weather, making sure students cross the crosswalk okay. And I just really want to honor them. There are winter warriors that are keeping the system running. They're behind the scenes, and I'm so really grateful for all that they do, because I don't think I would want the -2 degree job. I would be so whiny about that, and they're just standing out there getting students safely into the building. And I'm very grateful for everyone that keeps the buildings and running and our buses up and running. So thank you for all of our winter warriors. And that's all I have to say.
Can I add one more thing to that? The middle school art club or whatever who did the Valentine cards, like,
oh yeah,
dang man, like I couldn't even compare. They were witty, they were great. I wanted to buy like 10.
And the Culinary Club.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
They were good.
Yeah, so at teacher conference, they had homemade cards from the art club, and the Culinary Club made big cookies, chocolate-covered strawberries,
cake pops that they give
cake pops that you could buy for $1 a piece, and then they had flowers that they brought over from the high school to sell to. Yeah, they did such a good job.
That's a good job. Yeah, but the cards were amazing. Like I've got one that's a lava with hearts in it. It's like I'll melt your heart and you're my best match. And one of them's funny, like about Googling each other. They're really witty.
They're so clever. Yeah, they were great.
I have nothing other than, dang, I wish I had a middle schooler so I could have seen some of that. Anything else? Let's move on to the superintendent report.
Well, I shared some of the celebrations, but they're just over the last couple of weeks. We had our first round with JMEA negotiations we did last week. A few of us spent today at the CASE Winter Conference, which is right up here at the Embassy Suites. That was an energizing day. And one of the things that's been pretty cool recently is with Dr. Pilch recognized as Colorado's Superintendent of the Year, I get to see her a couple times a month, but to see her in front of the big audience She's hiring. She does great work, and so she's kicked things off this morning, so it was great to see her. What I wanted to talk a little bit about was something that's near and dear to my heart, and that's unified sports. As a former special education teacher, prior to the unified movement, the students I taught didn't have an opportunity to play in front of their peers. Last week was pretty exciting twice for our unified players. Wednesday night last week, they had a game against first responders from Johnstown. And it was pretty neat to see, I think it was 32-26 or something was the final score. But our unified players were so excited to be playing and scoring baskets. And it was so authentic and real. And then culminating the week last was the Wish Week celebration at Roosevelt High School, which again just tugs you because we had a family there that we as Roosevelt and as a district weren't directly supporting, but they had already been granted a wish. So they were there on Friday to talk about how much the Wish grant impacted their family and the two students they had with them. That it just was, amazing to hear the impact that work had. I think got a chance to see in my Friday update the bedazzled beard. Dave, the principal, put a bunch of glitter in his beard, which I'm sure was a fan favorite when he got home, I'm certain of.
The question is,
because
does he still have a beard? Did he have a beard on Monday? Did he get it out?
I seen him yesterday or today, so I don't know the answer.
Have you guys seen him around?
He's been awfully quiet.
He's holed up in his office. I don't know.
Well, maybe he must have. They didn't recognize him. Right? I haven't seen him, but there's this other guy walking around telling people what to do.
But the other thing you get to see during Wish Week is it's the second time last week that our unified players, they got to play in front of the whole student body. And again, it's just authentic, real, rich, the excitement the students had making baskets and running up and down the court, having a great time. So just awesome experiences. And then you get to see all the students at Roosevelt both cheering there, but also cheering for the family that's there sharing, and just recognizing that the culture there is celebrating other students is pretty neat to see. And that Wish Week for me now, both last year and this year, is just, it's a powerful culmination to the week. And then last thing I just want to share is, I think we heard here, I suppose about 6 weeks ago now, that Head Start had picked up and left. We did have a chance district, I think, to support about half of the students that were displaced by Head Start. Our district worked with other entities in the district that helped support some. YMCA, I think Blooming Littles helped a little bit. We've already advertised what we have going forward with those individuals, but I wanted to call out Mr. Everest because he's also been working behind the scenes on having the facility that they vacated donated to the district. So we're going to end up with a wet modular, which are hard to come by. They're not cheap, and we're getting the wet modular for nothing. And so that's a positive, and I think Michael's done all the work to make that happen, and those things feel like they should be easy. They never are. And so I just want to thank Michael for the work there. We also were able to negotiate 15 or 20 cents on a dollar for the furniture that they had inside that will help us grow our programs next year for quite a bit cheaper, I think, than Michael was thinking we were going to spend for furniture. So in some sense, what turned out as a negative for the district is going to be a positive going forward. And Shannon has really worked hard to think about how do we have a more robust program, and then maybe what they were getting with Head Start, both the ones that are with us now, but also in the future. So I just wanted to share as well, because I think that's a pretty powerful move for the district.
Yeah, good deal. 0 is good, is one of my favorite prices.
Well, would that be 3 property transactions in 1 year? It's a record. That's a record.
He's in fuego.
Pushing it out, bringing it in, I mean.
It's like Ryan Searhant over there. Okay, any questions for Superintendent Nielsen? Thank you, sir. Let's go on to the report from the CFO's office, Mr. Everest.
President Wales, members of the Board of Education, and Superintendent Nielsen. Tonight, I'd just like to give you a brief update on the district's financial status as of January. So looking at the second slide, we've received about 30% of our budgeted revenue and expended about almost 90% of our budgeted monthly expenditures. Our schools range from 96.7% of their monthly budget spent to 110% spent. All district schools are still kind of within an acceptable range, so I don't have any concerns at this point in that regard, or really any regard, but in that regard. On slide 3, this just gives a breakdown of where the schools lie in their January expenditures and their year-to-date expenditures. Moving on to slide number 4, district departments. Our district departments expended just over 83% of their monthly budgets in January. There were a couple of outliers. Our multi-language learners location. The reason why that was pretty significantly over its monthly budget was just simply for the payment of KQA for their portion of their ML funding for the entire year. That happened in January, so that was dumped into January's report. Office of the Superintendent, we had some contracts that doubled up. We had some in the very beginning of January that were for December, and then we had some at the very end of January for January. So that, and then coupled with, we also had an annual CASB policy transition fee that was paid. So those were kind of, we had some doubling up and then kind of an annual payment that pushed the Office of the Superintendent kind of over the monthly budget. And then for transportation, it was just simply bus repairs, lots and lots of repairs. So that's why transportation was a monthly percentage. Moving on to slide number 5, we have the district's other funds, where they were on their spending. And then if we look on slide number 6, there were kind of 2 outliers that I just wanted to quickly address. So the bond redemption fund, we're not going to have any more principal or interest payments until June. So that'd be 0 or very close to 0 for the subsequent months. And then with capital reserve, it had a negative amount, which is kind of unusual. The reason for that is because January was the month that I transferred some expenditures out of the capital reserve fund and into the fund, and those were the swimming pool and the transportation center relocation expenditures that we transferred into the building fund. That concludes my presentation, and I can answer any questions the board may have.
Any questions for Mr. Everett? Just one item here, not necessarily for you, Mr. Everest, but somehow at least on my version of board docs, the CFO's report got into the consent agenda.
That's what I'm seeing mine as well.
If we can just get that moved out, just in case in the past or in the future, if anybody comes looks that they don't think that we took action on an item that we don't take action on. So.
Can I ask another question, President Wells? On the reports section, is there approval of new industry?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what happened with this, but
So I don't see that.
Okay.
and neither does my.
And it's the way mine printed.
Is that what you guys are passing the last?
Yes, so I got it up on what's posted on the website, and what President Wells is mentioning is what I'm seeing from the website.
Are you?
Let's just make sure it's.
Are you as a board member? Or
Yeah.
But you're saying you're not logged in.
I just went to
The board
site
is
as
that
a
different,
public
huh?
Well, but I got a printed version, so we should be able, I should be able to keep us on the right track, but let's make sure we get that cleaned up before we forget about it and
We will do that.
make sure
Somebody will do that.
some historian will come in the past and they'll say, well, that one time they voted on the CFO's report. All right, thank you, Mr. Everest.
Thank you.
Speaking of the consent agenda, our adopted rules of parliamentary procedure provide for a consent agenda listing several items for approval of the board by a single motion. Most of the items listed under the consent agenda have gone through board review and recommendation. Documentation concerning these items has been provided to all board members and the public in advance to assure an extensive and thorough review. Any item can be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any board member. Otherwise, I would entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion by Director Proctor, a second by Director Johnson to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion?
Yes, real quick. Nothing major, but just to prove that we actually do read the minute of the previous meeting. It calls out that I talked about the Roosevelt Middle School transformation and how the gym was and that it needs improvement, which isn't exactly what I said, but that's okay. At the parent-teacher conferences, there are 2 banners on the wall at the RMS gym now because we've won 2 league champions, basketball, boys basketball, and track. So anyway, the gym has improved already at RMS. That we actually do read the minutes.
Any others? Hearing none, Ms. Kramer, would you please pull forward?
Emma Johnson?
Yes.
Amanda Proctor?
Yes.
Nate Sassano?
Yes.
Amy Musgrave? Michael Wales?
Yes.
Aiden Chambers? Annabelle Roscoe? Yes. Do we do that?
No.
Consent?
They won't vote
Not
on
for any of
consent.
them.
Only with,
Well, no, they won't
Roll
vote on
call.
anything.
They don't vote.
Just roll call.
thank you. Sorry, ladies. I'm learning.
All right, well, we'll move on to our special business, our first item. And these should go quick unless people jump to a bunch of good questions, which is why we did it, why we're doing it the way we did. Our first item is the approval of the new industry certificates, concurrent enrollment opportunities, CTE courses. Superintendent Nelson.
President Wales and board members, we would ask you to take action. You had a chance to hear from Dr. Albert 2 weeks ago talking about the growth we've seen in certifications, the growth we've seen in courses. Tonight we're approving new opportunities for certificates, some new courses that we will offer, and also some new concurrent enrollment opportunities. You have all 3 listed in the, and we'd ask you to take action on all 3.
I would just like to say that I paid my fees, my kiddo $10. We found that out when we were going over this at our work session, so.
It's off your conscience?
It's off my conscience. And then I'll also make a motion to approve the RHS course description and RMS RHS fees for the 2025-26 school year as presented.
Wait a minute.
Can I not make a motion yet?
It's the.
You're one of us, I think.
Am I one ahead? Really?
Which could be because, and we might be messed up here because there's
Our glitch.
a weird little shuffle here.
Yeah, the one Michael's talking about is the industry certifications.
Which, yeah, is now number A or letter A under reports.
It's under reports. Okay. Let's go back to letter A.
But I'm glad you guys paid your fees. I mean, that was.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Everest was worried.
I think Michael Everest was going to come personally.
So yeah, so the one we're talking about is the approval of the course. No, we're talking about the approval of the new industry certificates, concurrent enrollment opportunities, and new CTEs.
Okay, let me redo the motion. I'd like to make a motion to approve the new industry certificates, congruent enrollment opportunities, and new career and technical courses as presented.
I have a motion by Director Johnson, a second by Vice President Sassano to approve the new certificates, concurrent enrollment opportunities, and new CTE courses as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Oppose? All right, we have new certificates, enrollment opportunities, and courses.
Can I just, before we move on real quick, we need to hire a marketing person so that we can get the word out about all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this is some really cool stuff that I don't think people are all aware of what is available to our students. And not even only at the high school, but at the middle school level as well.
Yeah.
So. And just to add to that, I'll say, it was it was interesting after our meeting at RMS. I want to say Roosevelt. Oh, never mind. At our and about the amount of money that parents have or families have saved in education. The Johnson Breeze actually then had the annual report and all that. All the slides we saw were actually in there. So thanks for working really quick and taking our advice on Wednesday night and getting it ready for Thursday morning's paper.
It was in reverse order, but.
All right. Let's move on to our next item. This is the approval of the RHS course descriptions, RMS RHS fees for the 2025-26 school year. Superintendent Nielsen.
Thanks, President Wales and board members. Again, you had a chance to hear. I think we had some discussion with both principal from RMS and assistant principal from RHS. There was one change made, I think, that the board asked for in one math course. That sentence was taken out. Otherwise, it's all the same as we saw 2 weeks ago, and we'd ask you to approve course descriptions and the fee for both RMS and RHS for the following year.
Further discussion on that item? Thank you guys for addressing that that one sentence. Appreciate it.
And thank you to the staff. This one class for the construction geometry in particular is a real response to student needs, right? So again, this is something we need to communicate to the community, that we are responding to student needs, and really we aren't responding to student needs, but the staff at Roosevelt is responding to student needs and offerings that are needed. So it's a good discussion.
And that one class that Nate is talking about, what a great way to have real life experience in doing geometry. I was thinking about that all these last few weeks, and I'm so excited for students that will get to learn math really with on-job training, which is what that will present. So I agree. I think the word should get out that these are available. It's a new and fun way to learn. So it's really exciting. I would have benefited. I would have loved to have hands-on geometry because I thought geometry was really boring.
Well, in my household, I thought there was somebody living in a household who actually needed to get a recovery credit in geometry, and so I was really excited and went home and said, "Hey, you can do this." And I was informed that I don't need a recovery credit in geometry. I don't know what you're talking about. All right.
I will move to approve the RHS course descriptions and RMS RHS fees for the 2025-26 school year as presented.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice President Sassano, a second by Director Proctor to approve the course descriptions and fees 25-26 school year. Any discussion on the motion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, we will move on to our next item, the approval of the 25-26 calendar. Superintendent Wilson.
President Wales, board members. As we saw 2 weeks ago, the draft calendar that we'd love for you to take action on tonight creates a lot of continuity with the schedule or calendar we have in place this year. Allows us to really have a 2-year run to see how some of the changes we put in place last year, which if you remember, at the elementary level were quite dramatic. Let them play out for 2 years and get some feedback on it. So again, we'd ask you to approve this calendar. There is one change actually on the calendar that we talked about last time, and it has to do with the spring break window and the move. If you remember, remember, the blue was the 11th, the yellow was the 12th, and the was the 13th. We moved that all back by a day to allow teachers to have that, the 23rd as the day. It's that day happening right before spring break. It happens the day right after spring break, which allows them to have their spring break and come back to work day, instead of having the work day prior to spring break when they're ready for break. And so that's something they asked for in the committee, and that was so that we talked about that last time. It wasn't represented on the calendar we looked at 2 weeks ago, so they just wanted your attention to that.
Any questions?
Not really a question, just can you or maybe Superintendent Kramer, Assistant Kramer, talk about the process just for a minute so that people might be watching can hear what the process is that goes into creating this calendar?
You take that?
Sure. Yes, so the process for the calendar is we have representatives from every school, from administration and teachers. And we come together with all of us together. Karen Weiser was the one who facilitated this year. I was at all the meetings. Superintendent Nielsen joined us for part of some of those meetings as well. And we kind of lay out, here's what we had this year. What are some ideas? Do we need changes? Ideas are brought forth. Some people say, love it, keep it the way it is. Some people want things moved here and there. And then after we discuss in the group, it goes back to the schools. They discuss those different options. Then we have another meeting where we talk about what was brought forth. And I think I mentioned it at the last meeting, but there was a potential change at the beginning for the start date to be August 11th for our secondary schools and August 12th for our elementary schools. And when that was taken back then to the schools, the feedback that we got was that it was only one school that really wanted that change. So then it's basically a majority rules kind of thing. And so August 11th will be the start date according to this draft after approval of you. But it is involvement from all schools and all people at all schools, not only the committee. All of the staff get to vote on a calendar, either in a meeting that's called or through a form. So everyone who wants to give input can give input.
Thank you. I know we heard that 2 weeks ago, but I wanted people that might listen to our meetings here, that it's not just the five of us deciding on dates, or it's not just you guys in the admin office deciding on dates, that each building has a chance to give feedback and input onto this calendar. And I know it is majority rule, so not everybody gets exactly what they want, but everybody has the opportunity to get feedback.
Absolutely, and I was just going to say that calendars are key because you're never going to make everybody happy. So you just have to do the best you can and try to take as many ideas as possible. We have made some changes over the past year to help different departments, like transportation, for example. A couple of years ago, they brought forward that spring break was later for us, other districts, and so those certain students that we have that are going to other districts for special education services, we had drivers that were getting their spring break because they still had to work during that time. So we're able to make some of those adjustments because we do have people from transportation, that committee meeting, we have preschool, we have special education, and all of them are getting feedback from their different groups as well.
One other just thought for us to do next year. I noticed this year that District 6 and it was the Tribune put out their calendar for the next 2 years. So just something to think about as we sit in these committees to have a little more foresight. I know sometimes we can't do that, but if we can, I know that's helpful for our parents, for our community to know how we can plan on that. So again, just something to think about for the future.
We have talked about doing that, and thanks for bringing that up. That's something that is our goal to do. I think it's important, for one thing, to keep a calendar in place so we know what's working and what's not, rather than only having it part of the year. We're looking at the calendar again and we're making changes. It makes sense to keep it for a while and see how things are working. You all added these elementary planning days, for example, the PD and work time for elementary, and it has been so well received by our elementary staff and appreciated. And we just need to keep it in place and see how it's working when, looking at the data. So I think it's important to do that. I would be completely in favor of a 2-year calendar. So.
Yeah, I think it's something that's
yeah. Thank you.
Are you?
I am.
Is there anybody else? Any questions, comments?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2025-2026 calendar as presented.
We have a motion by Director Proctor, second by Johnson, sorry. I'm all messed up. Who are you? A second by Vice President Sassano for the approval of the 2025-26 calendar. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? You're okay. Okay. We'll move on to our next item, the approval of the lab purchase. Superintendent Nielsen.
President Wales, board members, as presented 2 weeks ago, we've had a chance to see Smart Lab that we're looking at adding to the MIS campus. That we plan to pay our share, and that the Well Trust has granted us $80,000 should we go for this purchase. So we'd ask you tonight to approve the purchase of the Smart Lab and give us the go ahead to start moving the project forward.
Any questions or discussion on the Smart Lab purchase?
It's going to be a really cool thing for MIS.
Yeah.
Assuming it passes.
No, but it's kind of fun to see it. I mean, my very first year on the board, we actually looked at the Smart Lab, and so it's kind of been a long time coming for this district. So it's good to finally see it.
Can you remind me where the rest of the funding is coming from?
Coming from that money that we set aside for the MIS project. So that's where we'll be paying for this out of. And that was set aside to buy furniture, to update spaces, and that's part of this project, right? Is you create the space, and then it also comes curriculum that's coming from that. But all of it will come from the money that you approved us to spend on that. Is that fair, Michael?
Yeah, from the construction fund.
Any other questions?
To approve the MIS Smart Lab purchase in the amount of $207,915.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice President Sassano, a second by Director Parker to approve the Smart Lab purchase. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, let's move on to item E. And as we're going through these, and I'm thinking about how you guys want to, Hayden and Annabelle, how you guys want to deal with as we go through the special business and, well, any business in these business meetings, because you guys obviously sat through the work session piece. It's pretty boring for you guys to sit here and listen to us vote. And so if you guys think about it for the future, if you guys would like to, once we get to this point in the meeting, I think that's fine. But if you want to stay for any extra discussion or provide any discussion, and that you still have that option. So kick this back to you, Super Nielsen.
Vice President Wales and board members, 2 weeks ago, we walked through a proposal that CFO Everest has come up with to try to mitigate fluctuations in our budget and create a bus leasing or purchase plan, purchasing with financing as part of the option. And so we'd ask you to approve us moving ahead. That would include the purchase of the buses for fall of 25, I guess.
I have a question. Can you remind me, because I looked back at the slide deck, for these leasing, is it a true like operating lease? So after the lease period, we get the buses back, or is this more like a capital lease where after the lease period, we have a buyout option and they're ours?
At the end of the lease, we have the buses. The term leasing, and that's just kind of the term that we need to use because of the whole paper situation. But it's just financing. For the
So they're ours after the lease period?
They are ours.
Okay, thank you.
Just out of curiosity, just what do we do when with our old buses? Do we sell those? Do we sell those for parts?
It depends on the bus. So in talking with Mr. Long, typically, Mr. Long comes in the spring and says, and asks the board's permission to get rid of, 1, 2, 3 buses each year, and those are sold. I cannot remember the name of the website, but it's like a website. People bid on it, and then
GovDeals. GovDeals.
Yes. The GovDeals website, and then some he keeps. Buses that are still in relatively good condition, but a new bus replaces. He keeps that in his spare fleet. So it just kind of depends on the bus. So I believe Mr. Long is planning to ask permission to dispose of a couple of buses, later this year, and then we'll be purchasing 4 additional ones with your approval, and then I believe that a couple will go into the spare. One or maybe 2 will go into his spare for next year. So.
I think added context that's important, and Director Johnson, you talked about it earlier, right? Is those who keep us up and running when we're cold. And we had 2 buses that didn't start this morning. And so the spare buses we had allowed us to continue operations as normal today. That's one example. But then we also end up with, I think, CFO Everest talked about the maintenance that we've had done on buses the last couple of weeks or last month. And given our transportation center currently, we have to outsource almost every mechanical challenge we have with the bus, which means it goes and sits somewhere until they can take care of it, which having the spare bus or 2 or 3 allows us to continue the operations. And so I didn't understand that at first. I was a little struggling, but as I started to work with JJ and understand, the ebb and flow of what's going on with buses, I think we're running pretty lean. And a good example, I think I was texting with you all last night thinking about a 2-hour day today. And had we not had the 2 buses, it would have looked like a bad decision to go with a normal start today because of the 2 buses didn't start. So some context to having some of the older buses stay around that can help us when we get into a lurch.
From a financial perspective, it's nice to have the consistency. Because I know part of the bond and mellow 5 years ago, whenever that was buses. Yes, we hadn't purchased them for a while. And it's kind of an emergency. You got to purchase buses. So the consistency of having it, I think, is wise.
To get it onto a more predictable schedule will definitely be a benefit, for me at least. So.
Well, I think for all of us, just from a talking point in the community, right?
Yeah.
We think about these things so it's consistent and it's not an emergency. Yeah. Same thing with facilities, right? That's the goal, to get it to where it's a consistent addressing of these issues, and not 20 years from now we're trying to scramble to fix buildings we haven't touched 20 years. So.
Being ahead instead of playing catch up all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Other comments, or questions? I entertain a motion.
I will move to approve the district's leasing plan for the new school bus and to authorize district administration to purchase 4 new big school buses for the 25-26 school year.
We have a motion by Vice President Sassano, a second by Director Musgrave to approve the bus leasing authorization and purchase approval as presented. All those in favor?
Right.
Aye.
Aye. Vote. All right, we're getting there. Approval of the Beacon Intermediate School renovation contract. Superintendent Nielsen.
As President Wales, board members, tonight we're asking that you approve contract with RB plus B, that they have created the plan for the actual work that has to happen there. A couple things we needed an architect to help us with, so we could get permits on them. The big one at MIS is the front entryway. But the second one is what we're doing for egress as we think about the separation between the schoolhouse and the library. And so they've done a lot. RB plus B had the plans, has worked building before. And so they were a logical one for us to be nimble with in terms of this small amount of work with understanding particularly the front entryway and the needs to make that happen. So we're asking for you to approve so we can apply for permits and get that front entryway moving.
So this is just the design of that change right now.
I have a question under Article 1 because it doesn't make sense in my brain. One of the bullet points says convert the new cafeteria into culinary storage. That makes it seem odd that there is a magical new cafeteria that we're turning into culinary storage and then we're using our old cafeteria. Can you clarify that? It just makes sense.
So the newest cafeteria is in the back side of where the food is prepared. I guess it'd be on the east side of food preparation. And our intention is to create essentially a culinary warehouse where we can have a bigger freezer, a bigger refrigerator, so that we are able to buy food in bulk, which currently is hard because we don't have anywhere to put it. We'll also have dry storage for culinary space back there. So that cafeteria that is what the middle school used for the majority of their lunchtime will be storage for our district-wide culinary needs. And the intent for us is to build the actual, as you walk in the entryway, that will become the elementary cafeteria. That's where we plan to put the new cafeteria furniture that we'll be purchasing in this process.
Okay.
So that's the way we'll leverage that.
Second question, on this architect contract, are they tracking their time separately for converting the new cafeteria into culinary storage so we can pull it from the services fund?
I don't know if that designation has been made, or that, segregation of time has been made. But that actually, we could definitely do that. Actually, Director Proctor, I don't think we can, because we can't charge the food service fund anything that involves the building. We can it's only the equipment. So like for the placement of the new electrical and the planning for it, that's a building charge, which the district needs to provide for. We can't do, but like the freezer, cooler, the racks for the dry storage, that all is coming out of the food service fund.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Any other questions?
I just have questions from the community. People wondering if they'll be able to, or I should say, when will they be able to view a blueprint version of what the new Milliken Intermediate will look like?
Once we pass this, it will be relatively soon because the plans will be going to Pepper at Milliken within the week, I would assume. So we should be able with our B&B to get paper renderings. Again, it's for us, try not to overspend, so we can work with E+B to think about what it looks like. In terms of the actual changes to the physical plant, they're very minimal, minus we've got to update the front door. So the front door will be different than it's been as a middle school. But otherwise, the classrooms, we're not changing the side. So the fly-through well is going to be very similar to what it is now. And with the exception of we won't be using that hallway that runs north and south along the basketball courts or the gyms. But that's something we can follow up on.
Perfect. And then the new, sorry, one more question. Can you give us a similar, will it be similar to Pioneer Ridge? Will it be similar to the RMS?
Yeah, it'll be closer to both RMS and RHS, and it'll two-door system rather than a three-door system. And we're doing it in such a way where there'll be sort of an in channel and an out channel. The in channel, because of the way that's configured there, the second door will be in past where the current door is. And then we're going to have a doorway punched in the brick wall so that when you walk into that in chamber, if you will, you go into the front office instead of pouring you into the cafeteria before you go into the front office. So there'll be
probably more similar to Elwell.
Yep.
LLs.
Yep. There's a plan to punch a hole in the wall for a window kind of further to the west side of that brick wall as you walk in, and then a door along that brick wall so that you can both see someone walking in, but you also have to walk in front office, yes, like they do at Elwell, or both the middle and high school do the same.
Very good.
Any other questions?
A motion to approve the contract with RB+B for renovations at LMS.
Second.
A motion by Director Proctor, second by Director Johnson to approve the Milliken Intermediate School renovation contract. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, now we move on to the approval of the RTU purchase for Roosevelt Middle School. Superintendent Nielsen.
President Wales, board members, we have a need. We've got a dead RTU at Roosevelt Middle School. I'm going to ask CFO Everest to talk a little bit more about civics, if he would be so kind.
Absolutely. So we have, with the rework that was done at Roosevelt Middle School, all but 7 RTUs were replaced. So there's 7 original RTUs still on top of the building. One of those RTUs is completely dead and needs to be replaced. That's the one that does the wrestling room and kind of the associated hallways around that. Mr. Roseberry, of course, we got a quote from MTech. Mr. Roseberry also did a walk with another vendor, and I can't remember the name of the vendor. But they went up on the roof, the vendor, examined everything. Mr. Roseberry never heard back from the vendor. He tried to get an additional quote. It's been unsuccessful. So really, we just have the one quote from MTech. There's a 7-week lead time on this, to be able to get this installed at the school. Yep. You have any other questions?
Can you remind me in our purchase policy how many vendors or quotes we're supposed to get? Is it 3?
It's supposed to.
Supposed to be 2.
And you know, unfortunately, unfortunately, I think this is going to be a problem we're going to run into with this, you know, with these types of purchases. You know, we're gonna have trouble getting quotes from, you know, from additional vendors in many cases, just because, you know, apparently there wasn't any interest in the end to give us a quote on this, to quote on the work for it. So,
Are they getting them from the website? Our website hasn't been working. Like, where are we posting?
Mr. Roseberry contacted, I believe he contacted the vendor directly.
Isn't there a policy saying we're supposed to post any? I don't have it in front of me, I'm sorry.
What's the policy number? I can't. Purchasing policy. DJ. The other question I have is I understood directly contacted vendors. Did we collectively look at the state purchasing site to see if there's another mechanical HVAC person that we could get the state purchasing prices under?
I don't believe he did.
Okay.
So the policy is DJE.
Thank you.
It's over $5,000. We have to put it in bid. It doesn't specify anything other. The purchase has been made in the market, but will, when possible, be based on competitive quotations for prices. Is there an emergent nature to this? Does it have to be fixed as possible?
It's not working. It's cold right now. It's going to be hot in the summer.
It's in the wrestling room and the surrounding area.
It's back in that area.
Which are not used for education. They are used for wrestling practice. And maybe some other.
Which for all practical purposes are over at the middle school.
Yeah.
So Michael asked about this yesterday, and we pondered whether time at that point you're talking about June before it's put in. So I mean, it's certainly something we could, if that's what the board would like, we could go back and look at other options for facilities.
I guess my thought process is, are we just delaying something that we're going to have to do anyway? If we don't vote on it tonight, then, or if it doesn't get approved tonight, are we just postponing because we're going to need to get it fixed?
I think you go back out and try to get what could be a better quote, right? Obviously, if this is the best quote, going forward, we come back to it. We can have Josh go back out and try to find others. We can use the state site and see what's there.
Yeah, Amanda, will you speak on that a little bit? What you're talking about, the state bid?
So the Colorado State Procurement Office, they do a whole bunch of negotiations for all kinds of things, from vehicles to professional services to all things, because the state has a very rigid procurement process. Any local government in the state of Colorado can use the state procurement website. So the school district can use those state contracts. So for example, I work for a government entity and I can get a truck and say, I want this under the state's purchasing contract and a heavily discounted truck because we're a government agency and it's based off of volume. contacting the particular vendor that the state has, that the state procurement office has vetted, and including them because they're supposed to be responsive to other local government entities that ask for bids. Part of being on that list. Doesn't mean they're always the cheapest, but it's an option.
Superintendent Knowles, is this something you could somehow pre-approve, let's say, yes, we can allocate a budget, but have them continue looking into things like Amanda was talking about, or into other bids, so we don't violate that policy, but then also to kind of have that timing there with it? Is that something you're able to do in one way or another?
Not necessarily to approve a blank check, for a lack of better terms. But yeah, that's a good question.
Definitely use the Catherine and that might be a good person.
I don't disagree, but I think the situation we're in is they came and looked at it and they said, MTech's got to be the best. So I don't disagree that we need to probably do a little more effort on this, but I think we're going to have the same position, looking at the same bid.
But I think we'll know. I think the move, I think we can have Josh, Donnie do some work both at the state level with what Director talked about. And then we can work with the board on an emergency meeting to, I don't think it's wise for us to wait till the April business meeting to do this. Obviously, if that's what you want to do, it's your choice, but looking at timing, if it's 7, 8 weeks.
For this line item.
Yeah, probably.
It might make the most sense instead of waiting till April, since we'll already be convened.
We'll have to call it, do we have to, we're somehow got to clarify
It'd
that.
be a special board meeting, yeah.
Do we need to take action on that? I mean, no, we don't need to approve or deny it. Should we make a table this until a future meeting? Okay. So, I want to make a motion that we table this item until the
Any discussion on the motion? In favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
And do you mind, President Wells, if I just say one thing? I think that this shows that as a board, we're really trying to be fiscally responsible, and we understand our budget, and we want what's best for the students, but we want to make sure we're doing it in the best possible way as we send taxpayers or so. Just want to say that out front, that we're trying to be fiscally
from us. So we could have this ready and have them doing this work for us. So if we can help in any way, getting these things expedited.
I think, I would say, I think we've got marching orders, and we'll share those with Josh.
Do we have any citizen comments on general topics?
We do not.
Okay, the board does need to convene a executive session pursuant to Colorado Revised Statutes 24-6-402 sub 4 sub F for the purpose of discussing personnel matters, specifically the superintendent's evaluation. I'm kind of running this one off a script just to keep us in the clear with our little friend. Do I have a motion to go into executive session for the above stated reason? Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion by Vice President Sassano, a second by Director Johnson to go into executive session. We'll need a roll call vote on this. Ms. Kramer?
Monica Johnson? Yes. Amanda Proctor?
Yes.
Nate Sasan?
Yes.
Amy Quick? Yes. Michael Woods?
Yes. So we'll go into recess on the general session, then we'll open the executive session. Those who will be joining us will allow
I was like, I have more questions about food.
Yep, you should be able to catch the end of it.
Okay, it is 8:13. We're reconvening the general meeting. And we are at the end of our agenda, so we will also adjourn our general meeting. Thank you.